The power of nature forces the entirety of humanity to come to terms with their own insignificance. None are more aware of this than the rugged seafarers of the world, whose determination to struggle in the face of this overwhelming truth has elevated the occupation of mariner to legendary status. This entry of Virtua Fighter Lore will feature one of the greatest fighting game mariners of all time, Jeffry Mcwild, or, in the Japanese pronunciation, Jeffry Mcwild?
Jeffry Mcwild.
I was pretty close on that one. This burly fighter is practically a force of nature in himself, and the embodiment of manliness and strength associated with ancient mariners of myth. In this episode, we will analyze Jeffry's considerable attractiveness, the complexities of his character design, appearances and influences in other gaming franchises, storyline, and some of his most unstoppable fighting moves. Let's get into it.
This is where you fall down!
Okay, alright, first things first. I have to give a special shout out to 7 MGTE Supra Turbo A, who kindly mentioned that I had left out an important fact about Jeffry Mcwild. There is a statue of him in the advanced track in Daytona, USA, also known as Seaside Street Galaxy. For some reason, I never noticed this in all my years of playing Daytona, USA, but I fired up the arcade port for the Xbox 360 and sure enough, there it is. A giant monument to Jeffry Mcwild, the world's biggest seaman. No, not that kind of... Okay, so anyway, I was pretty impressed by this. It seems like Jeffry had made a name for himself in this city, since I can't really imagine why else they would build a huge monolith of him. That's Mariner's power for you, alright? But the rabbit hole goes deeper. I decided to pop in my copy of Daytona USA Championship Circuit Edition for the Sega Saturn, and I was trying to get a good look at the statue. Holy moly! It turns out this version of Jeffry's statue can do flips if you repeatedly tap the X button. After remaining stunned long enough to place 30th in the race, I finally composed myself enough to switch to the vanilla port of Daytona USA for the Saturn. In this one, he doesn't really do flips from tapping the X button, though. He, break dances? What on earth is going on here? This is honestly one of the best Virtua Fighter Easter eggs that I've seen in a long while, and it really made my day. By the way, if anyone knows how to get this to work on the 360 port for the arcade version, feel free to let me know. I tried all the buttons, but had no success. Jeffry Mcwild has a physique and demeanor that exude masculine virility. He once boosted the ratings of a little-known news program by 10% that was in the same time slot as the FIFA World Cup just by showing up on the program without his shirt. This garnered immense popularity with the housewife demographic, resulting in speculation that he would be hired as a daytime television host. His marketability has even brought in offers for sponsoring his own line of convenience store dinners, a debut reggae album, and even the possibility of posing as a nude model for women's magazines. Self-employed as a master fisherman hailing from the coasts of Australia, Jeffry is of Aboriginal descent. While he wears his hair in traditional dreadlocks, this style is also in line with his favorite hobby, listening to reggae music. In the Virtua Fighter anime, Jeffry even has a Jamaican accent. Sort of.
You think you know me, do you? Then know this, I have no interest in dealing with you or Raphael. I'm not interested in doing business with you.
Got any food?
Subsequent installments of the Virtua Fighter franchise referenced other cultures in Jeffry's design, such as his Hawaiian shirt and one of his attacks being named the Samoan Drop. This has confused some fans as to Jeffry's ethnic heritage. However, as a man of the sea, it would not be too far-fetched to theorize that Jeffry may have spent a great deal of time in the Pacific and Caribbean islands. This would explain away the perceived contradictions imagined for any Jamaican or Samoan references in his character design. Jeffry's skillful mastery of the harpoon, love of sailing, and compulsive obsession for hunting oceanic predators all come together as an amalgam of literary and cinematic classes such as Melville's Moby Dick, Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, and Spielberg's Jaws. This combination creates in Jeffry the consummate mariner archetype, but the main inspiration for his creation is tied more to the land than the sea. An unused character bio from Virtua Fighter's early development shows that Jeffry Mcwild was originally intended to be named Willie Roberts. Inspiration for his initial name and likeness seemed to be based on Willie Williams, an American karateka and mixed martial artist, perhaps most famous for fighting a bear as a publicity stunt and for his 1980 match against Japan's top pro wrestler, Antonio Inoki. Many of Jeffry's punches, headbutts, and knee attacks can be seen throughout the various matches of Willie Williams' martial arts career. Jeffry makes an appearance as a playable character in Fighter's Megamix for the Sega Saturn, Giant Graham on the Sega Dreamcast, and joins several members of the Virtua Fighter cast in the PlayStation 2 iToy game Sega Superstars. In the Shenmue games, Ryo Hazuki shares one of Jeffry's moves in an attack called the Against Cascade. Also, in Shenmue 2, the dock worker Doolin feels like he may be a reference to Jeffry. He teaches Ryo a move called the Brawling Uppercut, which, while not technically in any official move list, it is definitely the sort of punch that I could picture Jeffry doing. Now, Shenmue 2's Rod Stunt, on the other hand, blatantly references the hulking seafarer, as evident from his use of Jeffry's Virtua Fighter 3 moves list. His fighting style is explicitly stated to be the same as our weather-worn mariner.
Yes, Hon Karachion!
On Karachion my butt.
Pankration is an ancient martial art that can be traced back to the Greek Olympic Games in 648 BC. The name translates as all powers, a reflection of the no-holds-barred nature of this style, which combines boxing, wrestling, kicking, and joint locks to destroy one's opponent, eventually falling out of favor with the Greeks as a sport for being too ferocious. The art was revived for a time in the Roman Empire before fading into obscurity. Though many have recently come to dispute this claim, some historians still theorize that Alexander the Great's Pankration-trained soldiers spread this martial form to Asia Minor when they invaded India in 326 BC. From here, Buddhist monks would disseminate some of Pankration's techniques to China, where it would become the basis for Chinese Kung Fu, as well as Judo.
Pankration is a bare-handed fighting technique that was developed by gladiators in ancient Rome. It is a technique that was derived from primitive moves such as punching, kicking, and choking. It is even said that it is the roots of present-day martial arts.
Jeffry Mcwild was born February 20th, 1957 in Australia. His Type A blood conveys that he is a patient and persistent fighter, willing to take his time looking for the right opportunity to destroy his opponent. This same tendency can also cause him to become overly fixated on his goals. He comes from a lineage of great fishermen who have hunted his eternal rival, the Satan or Devil Shark, for generations.
Shark, huh? It's a great shark of 8 meters long, a devil. I've come against him many times. He has been the nemesis of my father and his father before him. It's become a dream of catching the devil shark, my friend.
His compulsive need to hunt the Satan shark makes him more than slightly unhinged, suggesting that he may be psychologically unbalanced. A psychoanalysis of his subconscious dream state reveals that he feels the Satan shark is a direct threat to his happiness and self-actualization. His inability to defeat the shark through conventional means has caused him severe psychological trauma that can only be alleviated by defeating this foe. Dreaming of a shark is symbolic of intense fear rooted in the perception of a looming threat. Such a fear is best overcome by being confronted directly. In the Virtua Fighter anime, Jeffry is the owner of his own island, which is coveted by the Raphael Corporation, a subordinate of the Koen-Kan conglomerate. This is non-canon in the games. However, the anime portrays Jeffry as a family man, and it seems there is actually evidence for this in his CG portrait video for the Sega Saturn.
何笑ってんのよ。結局あんたが勘違いしたのがいけないんでしょ。
As the most skilled fisherman in his village, his engaging personality and prowess as a warrior earned him favor with many locals of his homeland. There was a time when it was thought no opponent could ever defeat him except for one, the dreaded Satan Shark. The two had clashed in many battles, culminating in a climactic struggle in which Jeffry was routed and his boat was obliterated. The fight continued beneath the ocean's surface, but Jeffry was outmatched by the 8-meter Leviathan and was left among the wreckage of his boat on the verge of death. Through sheer stubbornness and fortitude, Jeffry somehow recovered. Losing to the Satan Shark resulted in Jeffry losing his livelihood, and worse than that, his pride as a man had been compromised. Desperate to secure funding for a new boat, he decides to enter the World Fighting Tournament in order to satiate his battle lust and to face the Satan Shark in a rematch. Jeffry placed well in the World Fighting Tournament and secured enough cash to buy a new boat outright. He immediately ventured into the Satan Shark's territory in order to challenge it to a death match. An even more ferocious battle ensued than the last. Jeffry fared much better this time, but the cunning Satan Shark once again eluded his grasp when his boat was destroyed for a second time, making it impossible for Jeffry to claim his victory. There is some evidence that the J6 Syndicate may have had a hand in sabotaging Jeffry's boat in order to prevent him from achieving his goal. Vowing to never rest until his nemesis is defeated by his own hands, Jeffry decides to enter the second World Fighting Tournament in order to secure enough capital to purchase yet another boat. Jeffry's reputation had preceded him, and many fighters were wary of his considerable strength. Much to his chagrin, he was being challenged by a petite young girl who claimed that the speed of her martial arts style could defeat even the strongest of opponents. His initial amusement at this claim soon turned to bewilderment as he lost in the first round of the second World Fighting Tournament to Pai Chan.
My next adversary is waiting for me.
Returning home with no money to his name, he attempted to rebuild his decimated boat using scraps of timber, but was unsuccessful. He also tried working odd jobs on the docks and entered into an agreement to work as a low-wage hand on a cruise ship, but this would take him far too long to earn the money needed to face the Satan Shark in a new boat. Plagued by his many financial debts, he had no choice but to risk everything once again by entering the third World Fighting Tournament. With everything on the line, Jeffry was able to overcome the odds and win a substantial amount of prize money from the third World Fighting Tournament. He immediately purchased a new boat and set out to face the nefarious sea creature that had foiled him for so long. However, he would soon be dismayed to discover that the Satan Shark had disappeared from its territory and that it had not been sighted for some time. After questioning several fishermen as to the location of the shark's many hunting areas, Jeffry decides to enter the fourth World Fighting Tournament in order to earn enough money to afford a sonar device for his new boat in order to locate the elusive Devil Shark. His performance in the fourth World Fighting Tournament was impressive, and he was able to buy his coveted sonar device to locate his monstrous prey. However, once beginning his search, he ascertained from local mariners that the J6 Syndicate had captured the Satan Shark and taken it to be researched at their base of operations. Filled with rage that the prize he had obsessed over for years had been stolen from him, he vows to hunt down the Judgement Six for daring to touch the Satan Shark. After spending all his prize money attempting to gain information about the evil syndicate, he learns that they sponsor the World Fighting Tournaments and that they had been interested in him for quite some time.
I'm in a hurry. I'm going
To buy a boat, perhaps?
Huh? How could you know?
A large boat. Yes, your whole life savings to buy a fishing boat so you can catch your shark.
You! How could you know so much about me?
Hey, Jeffrey!
I know everything about you, Mcwild. Your wife's favorite perfume, how many cavities your 3 children have.
What? Oh, shut up.
During this investigation, Jeffry was uncertain what to do next when he mysteriously received an invitation to the 5th World Fighting Tournament. It seemed the oceans were facing a threat more ominous than the Satan Shark itself. Whatever these syndicate types were after, they had made a fatal mistake in revealing themselves to Jeffry Mcwild. The Mad Mariner would once again join the World Fighting Tournament with his sights set on a new quarry. the Judgement Six.
I am Jeffry. My battle is with nature.
Are you gonna teach me a skill too?
The power of nature is tremendous. Rushing into things will only get you hurt.
Yeah. I don't want to get in any danger.
Ha! Giving up before the battle has even begun? You are pathetic!
What? Hey, I'm no weakling.
I have battled with the Satan shark, scourge of the seas. As a part of nature, human life is insignificant. However, with this understanding, you gain the courage to stand against it. Let's see your strength of will!
Jeffry Mcwild is a fighter of considerable strength and stature. Though his move list is a bit more limited than some other fighters, he more than makes up for this in his potential to deal enormous amounts of damage. Due to this fact, the ability to predict and control your opponent's moves is key. Patiently fishing for the right opening to deliver a staggering combo of strikes, or catching your opponent in a grappling attack will spell almost certain defeat for even the most skillful of combatants. Many of Jeffry's attacks are able to position him into his threat stance, which has the ability to set your opponent up for a variety of damaging barrages and strong or positional command grabs. Jeffry has turned his entire body into a weapon, from his head to his toes. Even his hindquarters are capable of destroying his opponents with moves such as his butt slam and his flying butt attack.
Take this, butt cannon!
I'm faster than lightning!
Some of his other most signature attacks include the Spartan-like Kenka kick, the running body press, and the tornado punch. But all of these attacks pale in comparison to his most devastating technique of all, the crucifix pile driver, also known as Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain! Splash Mountain is a deadly technique in which the fighter lifts his enemy high over his head, jumps into the air, and slams his enemy head first into the ground.
That, Akira, is the power from the bottom of the sea.
The weight of both men creates such a force upon the enemy's head that the amount of damage is unmentionable.
With the mastery of a fighting style that once brought the civilized world to its knees, any fighter who makes a foe of Jeffry will face a strength and stamina whose reserves are as limitless as the depths of the oceans.
Don't cross a man of the sea!
That will once again do it for this entry of Virtua Fighter Lore, featuring the mariner with the most, Jeffry Mcwild. Hopefully you all didn't mind the wait, as these videos typically take me a long time to make. But if you enjoy this series and you would like to see more, please let me know by leaving a like or a comment below. I know that this is a little late, but I hope that you all have a happy and prosperous new year. Friend Moose, please be safe and take care. Until I see you again in the next video.